Hi, and welcome back to Support for Celiac, a channel offering support and validation for everyone affected by celiac disease. Today I'm really excited because I have a special guest here with me, Valerie Kraft from Beyond Celiac.
So my name is Valerie Kraft. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator at Beyond Celiac. And I've actually had kind of a fun, interesting, and just like really exciting journey at Beyond Celiac. So I actually wanted to work for Beyond Celiac since I was 16 and was like fresh out of my diagnosis. So it is such a cool full circle moment for me. It's especially funny because the year before the pandemic happened, it was my junior year of college. And I knew I really wanted to work at Beyond Celiac because celiac advocacy was it for me. I had done some things in high school and in college. Everything I was doing was just on my own. And I was like, I need to be able to afford things someday. So I was like, I need to be able to do celiac advocacy work, but also like get paid for it in a sense. And there's not really a lot of avenues to do that. And Beyond Celiac was the organization that I relied on for my own diagnosis, for their gluten-free college toolkit when I went to college. Then when the pandemic hit, Beyond Celiac actually came up with doing their own summer intern council. So I think I submitted my application like within a day. I was like, I'm ready to go. I started as an intern and they were asking, what can we do to connect with young people? What can we do to get more people your age, interested in Beyond Celiac and health advocacy? One of the things that me and my fellow ambassadors came up with was the idea, it was originally just a college ambassador program. We felt that that would be a really good way to, mutually benefit, help kids have a platform at their college to be able to enact change, when they go to their dining hall, be able to not just say, I'm a student with celiac disease, but I'm a student with celiac disease and a Beyond Celiac ambassador, giving them a little bit more credibility and a little bit more bargaining in the can you please feed me conversation, hopefully empowering them to speak out, giving them a platform to, reach out to some other folks. Towards the end of our internship, we really realized it should be kind of for all ages because celiac disease obviously affects all ages and we don't want to limit it to, well, congratulations, now you graduated, see you never. I was, yeah, you know what I mean? It's as great as it would be. We don't want anyone to feel like, you've been alienated or you've aged out or you've graduated because you never graduate from celiac. So I was super excited when Beyond Celiac reached back out to me a few months later for two reasons. A, I was really excited to be kind of brought back in as the volunteer engagement intern, but B, I was so excited that we pitched this at the end of August and they were reaching out to me at the end of October to bring me back in. So to bring in outsiders, for outsiders to say, hey, I think you should do this. And then for Beyond Celiac to be like, immediately we're doing it. I thought that was like the biggest testament to like how much they really listened to their community and really cared about like the feedback we were providing. So from October of 2020, I guess, until really the end of 2021, I worked in kind of that volunteer intern position. And I recently just kind of signed on to a bigger position as the community engagement coordinator. Roughly what I do is about the same as I kind of manage and oversee the ambassador program, obviously in a higher capacity now, but that is really my bread and butter job. I do some other community engagement with, volunteers, and I'll be doing more with our interns this summer, but to be able to, pitch a program, come on, build it, bring it to life and run it, to thinking back to me and my college counselor, thinking, how am I going to be able to work with Beyond Celiac? It's a really, really surreal and just wonderful feeling. Like I know my 16-year-old self would just be like over the moon because this is where like I've wanted to be since like maybe 5 months after I was diagnosed and realized there was nothing for young people.
What you're saying makes me think about, going to the college campus and not demanding, but sincerely asking, what are my food options? You as a person by yourself is one person, and it's easy for them to push it under the rug or say no, or we don't care, or whatever, ignore you. But if you say me, and I've got this entire company and people and community behind me that are going to do something about this, if you say no or ignore me, that is what's powerful. That's where change is really created.
Absolutely. And I think a big part of it too is, I'm sure, the stigma around celiac disease, around gluten-free specifically. And I do think sometimes going to college dining and say, I'm eating gluten-free gets a different reaction than nut-free, shellfish-free, milk-free, what it may be. I'm really lucky. So I graduated from Vanderbilt in the spring of 21, and I was able to approach dining just as like an individual with celiac disease and have a really, really amazing response. Unfortunately, I've tried to help a lot of other students at other schools, and it's not the same kind of situation. There's a real opportunity to make a concrete change on those campuses that is long lasting if we can just get the right people in the right place and people to advocate.
It's interesting because I personally didn't have celiac disease when I was, in a college environment, but we have other ambassadors and people in our group that, are in high school or parents with kids in elementary school and pre-K. And in those environments, you don't have a choice but to eat there. You don't have a kitchen. You can't accommodate for yourself. But then out in the real world, places don't accommodate. And I see that a lot. And I'm sure you do too with restaurants when you try to just educate them and let them know the seriousness of it. They kind of just turn you away and go, oh, well, you shouldn't eat here. We don't want the responsibility and the liability of it. What would you say, one, is Beyond Celiac's main goal or mission, if there is like one in particular now? And what would you say your part is in like specificity of getting there and making sure that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Beyond Celiac, we are committed to finding and funding research towards treatments and a cure by 2030. That is something that I think is phenomenal because it wasn't something I ever dreamed about when I was diagnosed. It was never something that was told to me. And even today, as I meet people with celiac disease, there's so many people that don't even know research towards treatments and a cure are being done. And so we have, our absolutely incredible science team. That is not my particular specialty, who is really doing a lot of the incredible work in, creating our science plan, working with different clinical trial companies, helping to direct and fund research and awarding grants. I work with the ambassadors, and all of our ambassadors are our force multipliers. You are out in your community advocating for celiac disease in your community. And it's one of these chain reactions that the more people that know about celiac disease, the more people that are aware about celiac and understand that it is a serious genetic autoimmune disease. It is not an allergy. It is not a choice. It is not a cheat diet. It is something that we can't control. And right now, gluten-free is the only option we have. The more people that understand our cause, I think, are going to be more willing to donate, to utilize their resources. And more awareness is ultimately going to help us be able to drive more money, more funds towards research, towards a cure, and get that cure to market, hopefully by 2030. As we talked about, one voice is not the same as multiple voices, is not the same as a group. And I am not going to have success, you're local to Los Angeles, knocking on doors in Los Angeles saying, hey, I live 1,000 miles away, but are you interested in working for this cause that you don't know me and I don't know you? But our ambassadors being able to go in their communities, I'm able to help them have the tools, the resources to, for example, hold events in their area, connect them with members of our Beyond Celiac community that are already living in that area, help them understand how to talk to local corporations, local gluten-free mom and pop bakeries to create a circle of connection and individuals kind of stationed and ready to go advocating in their communities. That is how we are going to build awareness, and that is how we are going to get to the cure.
I'm sure a cure can mean a lot of different things for people wondering, like, what does a cure look like?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a specific idea that Beyond Celiac has or that you have as an individual?
Yeah, I mean, at Beyond Celiac, our mission and our vision is, we envision a world beyond celiac where people are able to eat without fear. Personally, to me, a cure means, imagine if I could go to a restaurant and I don't even have to ask a question. I can sit down, I can order. And whether that has to be something that is already gluten-free or not, I don't have to sit there and panic and think, can I eat here? Can I research? What if I get sick? Being able to live free of gluten exposure, that is what we are thinking when we are thinking cure. The different scientific mechanisms that will get us to a drug or get us to a treatment there, that's something that is definitely something the science team can probably explain better than I can. But, we're just kind of doing our best to make sure that we are, investigating in multiple different areas. We're not trying to put all of our eggs in one basket because there are a lot of different mechanisms of the immune response. There's not just kind of one area where a drug has to target.
For the average person, for the person not connected with any sort of company, but wanting to advocate for themselves, what can people be doing right now? An average person, they don't have a lot of time on their hands. What can they best do to support that cause?
So much. And I think that is where, I think people think that they have to be, outside of Capitol Hill, or they have to be on national TV, or they have to be, like at an organization like Beyond Celiac to enact change. But word of mouth is so important. When you're in the grocery store and you're in the gluten-free aisle and you see somebody that looks like they do not know what they are doing, hey, Do you have celiac disease by any chance? I can't tell you how many people I have met because I have noticed somebody struggling in that aisle. And I was like, did you just get diagnosed? I don't mean to ask, but like, do you need some help? My dad used to carry, back when I was 16, I had made my own little celiac website. But my dad used to carry my little badly designed business cards in his wallet. And every now and then somebody would mention their kid was having health issues or their kid was this and this. My dad would be like, have you thought about getting tested for celiac disease, and hand them my little business card. But just creating awareness that celiac disease exists, you tell someone who tells someone who tells someone, and maybe you're helping getting someone diagnosed. It's that domino effect I'm speaking of. One thing a lot of people say is celiac disease is a very lonely disease because people don't talk about it. I'm very out and loud about having celiac disease. I don't think there's a person alive who doesn't know me and doesn't know that I have celiac disease. But I constantly am meeting people that I've known for a while. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me? Like, I have celiac. It doesn't have to be a secret. And I think just taking away some of that, whether it's insecurity or worried how other people will think, or, they feel like they're a burden, they just don't want to be open about it. Just creating awareness that the disease exists in the first place. And it's not, oh, it's no big deal. Oh, don't worry about me. I think a lot of times we don't want to be burdens to others. And so we kind of brush our needs off. It's significant. It is something that I have to worry about on a daily basis, 3 times a daily basis. It's not anything that any of us have a choice with. And that is why we are so avid for finding research and a cure, because the gluten-free diet is not enough. And as long as we continue to, again, whether that's just educating your family, whether that is mentioning it to a friend, whether that is just sharing posts on social media, it doesn't have to be a big, giant coordinated effort. It is a small network of people expanding. And that is how we are going to connect with others in their communities. It's person-to-person connection.
It's easy to forget that. Just like anything, you do something daily or on a small scale, you don't really see the big impact of it. One drop ripples out and has a ripple effect, but you don't see that ripple effect until you zoom way out and get a bird's eye view. I have to tell myself, little by little is going to do it. Slow and steady wins the race.
I think it's one of those things that, again, it feels like this big, daunting goal. Like we're trying to find a cure. We're trying to do something that's never been done before. And then I think back to, I was only diagnosed in 2015. There are a lot of folks out there that were diagnosed 10, 20, 30 years ago. And I can't even imagine what it was like living with celiac disease at that point. And I think back to the kind of landscape of the world then and now, and it's a huge difference, even in terms of availability of gluten-free food, even in terms of the way things are marked in the grocery store, even in terms of just the cost going down significantly, in terms of doctors that even know what celiac disease is. And it was kind of, it's one of those things that at the time when I was telling people about celiac disease and when I was having my little business cards, there was no way for me to see that kind of effect. And like you said, it does take zooming out. It does take looking at the bigger picture and recognizing that even if you don't see the impact right away, that doesn't mean there's not an impact. There's a huge impact because we did not get to where we are today solely because of organizations like Beyond Celiac. It took everyone in the community educating their local doctor, going to their local restaurant and telling them, hey, by the way, this thing you have on the menu has rye in it. Going to their local grocery store and saying, can you order this product in? It is a concentrated community effort, even if it's something that in the moment doesn't seem like it necessarily is.
Yeah. And what you're saying is reminding me of is Alice the CEO of
She is the founder and the CEO, Alice Bast.
And she basically started everything just from like what you're saying, talking to some people, entering a support group, having a small group of people that understood the daily struggle of having celiac disease, and then just going from there, basically not being silent.
Exactly. When you think about it, Alice Bast is an incredible woman, and she's one person. And look at everything she's been able to do as one person because she reached out, because she wasn't silent, because she connected with her community. I think that is like the absolute perfect example. Is at the time, I'm sure it did not feel like it, talking to people that had no idea what celiac disease was. But, here we are in 2022, and look where we are.
I kind of had just one last question based off of what you were saying, what I'm thinking about. We've talked about not being silent and, being honest with people in our lives, people we're close to and see on a daily basis, and people that are more acquaintances or strangers, with how celiac disease affects us, I often have heard the saying or scientists telling people with celiac disease that they need to complain more. And I feel like the term complain has a negative connotation. And I often find myself struggling to even talk to my parents because they live on the other side of the country and explain, without feeling like I'm just whining and complaining, the symptoms and the struggles that I go through with celiac disease every day. It's not, once a week, it's every single day. Do you have any advice on how you go about doing that, or how people can go about doing that without feeling that complaining guilt?
Absolutely. I work with a lot of kids, especially a lot of teenagers. They don't necessarily want to ask. They don't want to talk about it, especially in front of their friends. They just go to college. They don't want to be that kid. The best thing that I can always say is you did not choose to have celiac disease. And as long as you were kind, you were polite, and you were understanding reasonably, then there is no harm in asking. The worst anybody can say is no. And while it might be unfortunate to hear no, the best somebody could say is, oh yeah, by the way, we do all these amazing things that, you may not have known about if you hadn't asked, if you hadn't advocated for. And again, even there are times that I catch myself when something's just good enough, or I'm like, oh, it's fine, I'll just bring my own, or I don't want to talk about it. Again, reminding myself that what if there are others after me that are in this situation? And what if this is an opportunity for me to educate someone, for me to teach somebody? And then going forward, they know what to do. And then going forward, the next person to come into this restaurant, to come into this grocery store, to come into this situation doesn't have to do that work. You have no idea how much of an impact you speaking up can actually have. And if the worst anybody can say to you is no, not a big risk.
That's really great advice. And it kind of circles back to what we were saying from the beginning, in that you're not alone, even though it may feel sometimes as if you are alone. There are so many other people that support this cause, that are affected by celiac disease. If you feel selfish and like you're being the, problem or whatever, you go, it's not just about me, it's about other people too. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for being such a phenomenal ambassador. I mean, your story, your wisdom, just, the way that you advocate so beautifully for yourself, for others, is just phenomenal. And we are the lucky ones to have you. So thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode and interview. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please leave it in the discussion. I hope for this to be an ongoing conversation with all of you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you soon.